it's intended to be a centre for a centre that's led by creative people primarily. It's a facility that's right in the middle of our engineering faculty. I always sell it as a bit of an oasis in an otherwise sort of cultural desert of the engineering faculty, but we're here really to try and draw out some of the possibilities for using new technologies for creative purposes. So that includes performance, it also includes composers, but increasingly it's now drawing in people from other artistic areas like video and graphics and animation, and also into areas like healthcare as well, which is kind of interesting. It's been sort of fairly amorphous, which has both helped us get the funding, because I think a lot of people find it hard to pigeonhole what we do, and at another level I think it reflects the fact that we don't want this thing to be a rigid organisation. It's there to reflect the interests of the people who are working here.
What were you listening to at the time?
At that stage, wow. It's a very good question. I have my two older brothers were incredibly interested in progressive pop music, and that was probably my way into classical music, believe it or not, because I was hearing the likes of Keith Emerson playing Bartók and thought this is amazing, and then went to listen to Bartók.
Right.
Or I got very interested in sort of synthesized music, always was interested in new timbres, and the then Moog synthesizer had an incredible sound that cut across everything inside that big sort of rock sound. And so from there, Tomita, this Japanese synthesizer guy, this is early 1970s, maybe mid 1970s, became interested in the music of Debussy. And again, it's sort of another unorthodox route into the music. But what I found was, even when I went to university, I found myself sitting in class with other students, and I couldn't believe some of the things I was hearing, but some of them were busy doodling on the back of their notepads. And I went straight from there to the library to get the score out, and it was all completely new to me. I think the hardest audience to engage with is probably the classical music audience, who arrive at everything with so much baggage that, and it's quite understandable, and I think probably what's wrong, and what has been wrong, is we sell this as electronic music, whereas I think it needs to be sold as sonic art. I think when you use the metaphors that arise out of areas like film and sculpture and present it as something akin to that rather than chamber music, then I think they find it more easy to understand what it is you're talking about. I still think that the most extreme versions of what you're describing are still, for me, the most rewarding listening experience. That is, sitting in a room without visual distractions of musicians and performers, listening to sounds that are stored on tape and meant to be realised and performed in space through multiple loudspeakers, is for me perhaps one of the most exciting listening, most challenging listening experiences.
New work at Leave No Trace, you've described as a technical nightmare, but tell me a little bit about that and the kind of scale that's allowing you to work on.
Well, in Crossing the Threshold, I was beginning to experiment with notation that was perhaps more to do with representing timbre than pitch. And then another quartet that I wrote for the New Helsinki Quartet called Off the Wall, which was based on tagging so graffiti art, and how I could sort of, it was any way of trying to capture some of that. And so I've had an interest in how things are presented notationally to musicians. So in Leave No Trace, I went the extra, 10 miles I think it was. Quite literally, and decided that I was going to explore this idea of notation in real time. So the players have each of a laptop computer in front of them. There's a wireless network between their computers and my computer. I have a graphics tablet, so that you might use as an architect. And then I have a a system on the surface of the graphics tablet where I can generate music in real time that they play. And not only that, but the pen on the surface of the tablet triggers the electronic sounds as well. And again, those are mainly preconceived materials that I trust, and I know that those will trigger fragments of musical material on their screens that I can also trust. So as I move around the surface of this, the piece is being created in real time. The next piece I'm writing is for Ian Pace, the pianist, and that'll be in May, coming here. And there we're actually going to wire up some additional sensors onto him as well, so that his heart rate and other things are actually driving. So his emotional engagement with the piece is also affecting the generation of the future piece, which is kind of interesting. But I'm hoping in the autumn or early new year to have a big ensemble piece using this. It all comes down to the level of artificial intelligence around how the composer, or whatever my role is, their interface with the rest of the musicians. So there's like an engine inside the computer that I have that's understanding the relationships between what's possible. It's important that it's not random. So the reason why I use this graphics tablet is I know, for example, I could go from the quartet playing harmonics very quietly to them playing, glissando very loudly on the instrument, and for me that's a musical possibility that could happen in my music anyway. So all this tablet is doing is allowing me to tinker with the proportions and the ordering of those things.